My mother never believed in me. Even after I cleared every penny of her debt, she still threw me out. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was when she found out what I had been hiding for years, and how it changed everything. The house was silent as I packed my things. Every corner of the room echoed memories of my childhood, my struggles, and the sacrifices I had made. My mother, sitting in the living room, didn't even flinch as I placed the last box by the door. She had already made her mind up, and nothing I did could change that. You really think you've earned my respect just because you paid off all my debts? She scoffed, her voice cutting through the air like a knife. You're nothing but a failure. Always have been, always will be. I froze. The weight of her words was crushing, but there was something deeper in my chest. A sense of control I had never felt before. I had been silent for years, taking her insults, working in the background, building everything in secret. She thought I was just some child who couldn't do anything right. Little did she know, I had already surpassed everything she ever expected. I picked up the final box. A smile tugged at the corner of my lips. It was time to leave, but not without showing her just how wrong she was. I turned to her, my eyes cold, knowing that today would be the last time she would ever look down on me. Just wait, Mom, I whispered, knowing she wouldn't hear it now. But soon she would. I walked out the door, leaving behind a house full of memories and an empty mother who never realized what I had become. The deed was already in my hand, and I was about to make my move. Like what you're hearing, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe for more shocking twists. Stepped into my car and glanced at the deed. It was time for the world to see what I had built and what my mother had thrown away. The truth would come out soon. The drive was long, but I didn't mind. The weight of the deed in my hand was all the fuel I needed. My phone buzzed a few times, but I ignored it. Calls from family, mostly my mum, asking why I was being so dramatic, why I couldn't just be a good kid for once. But I wasn't a kid anymore, and it wasn't about being good. It was about proving a point. As I pulled into the parking lot of my new office, a sleek building with glass windows reflecting the sky, I took a deep breath. My mother had never believed I could amount to anything, but she didn't know what was waiting for her. I parked my car and looked up at the building in front of me. To most, it was just a corporate structure. To me, it was the symbol of years of silent effort, countless hours spent working late, building my company from nothing. Now, I owned it. The sign outside said it all. Empire Ventures. This was my kingdom, and I was about to show the world I was the king. Walking into the building, I was greeted by my team, young, ambitious, and dedicated. They had no idea what had been going on back at home. They only knew me as the leader, the one who had guided them through countless challenges. And today, I was going to show them the biggest challenge of all, what it felt like to rise up from the ashes and destroy the ones who never believed in you. As I entered my office, I saw the stack of papers on my desk, but it wasn't the contracts or the reports I was interested in. No, I grabbed one thing, the deed to the house. This was my ticket to the final stage of my revenge. It was time to take control of the narrative. My mother would regret ever doubting me. Later that day, I received a call from her. It wasn't unexpected, but the tone of her voice, it was different. She sounded desperate. I made a mistake, she said. I know I've been hard on you, but I didn't let her finish. No, Mom, I interrupted, a smile creeping onto my face. You haven't made a mistake. You're just about to realize what I've been doing all along. I hung up before she could say anything else, then leaned back in my chair, staring out the window. The pieces were falling into place. It wouldn't be long now before the world saw what I had built. Tomorrow, I would give her the shock of her life. The next day came faster than I expected. I had already prepared everything: contacts, connections, and of course, the biggest surprise of all. My mother had no idea what was coming. She thought I was just a failure, someone who had nothing to offer the world. But I had worked in silence for years, building an empire brick by brick. I arrived at my mother's house just before noon. The door was locked, but I had a key. I had made sure of that. Walking inside felt strange, almost like I didn't belong there anymore. The house that once felt like home now felt cold, as if every corner was silently judging me. But today, it wasn't about the house. It was about the moment of truth. My mother was sitting in the living room, scrolling through her phone, completely unaware of what was about to unfold. Her eyes widened as I entered. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice a mixture of confusion and annoyance. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I placed the deed on the table between us. The silence was deafening. "Do you remember this?" I asked calmly, watching her eyes flicker with realization. The deed to her house, the house she had thrown me out of, the house I had cleared her debts for. She had no idea how much power I now held. Her face went pale. No, that can't be. You didn't." I smiled, leaning in slightly. "Oh, but I did, and I'm not done yet." I paused, letting the words sink in. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the deed, but she couldn't bring herself to touch it. Her mind was racing, trying to comprehend how everything had shifted in such a short time. "You think you're going to make me regret how I treated you?" Her voice cracked. "You think this is how you get revenge?" I leaned back in my chair, watching her squirm. "Revenge? No, Mom. This isn't revenge. This is justice." With one last glance at the deed, I stood up, ready to leave. "Tomorrow this house will be mine, and so will everything else you thought you could take from me." Her mouth opened in disbelief, but no words came out. I turned and walked out, feeling a strange sense of peace. The final step was set. The world would soon know what had been hidden for so long. But just as I reached the door, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from one of my partners. They had a problem, a big one, a problem that could destroy everything I had worked for. Suddenly, the game had changed again. I stood frozen at the door, my hand still on the handle, staring at the phone in my hand. The message was clear. "We've got a serious issue. It's urgent. Call me." I glanced back at my mother, who was still sitting there in shock, unable to process what I had just told her. But there was no time to dwell on that. My empire was on the line, and I couldn't afford to lose it. I walked out the door, not looking back, and rushed to my car. The weight of the situation settled on my shoulders. As I drove to the office, the traffic felt heavier than usual, and my mind raced through every possible scenario. What could possibly go wrong now? Everything was supposed to be falling into place, but this message, it didn't sit right. When I arrived, my team was already in the conference room. My right-hand man, Jake, was pacing back and forth. He looked up as I walked in, and his face immediately went grim. "We've been hacked," he said, his voice tight. "They have all our data, client information, financials, everything. If they release it, we're done." My stomach dropped. This wasn't just some small glitch or technical hiccup. This was an all-out attack, the kind of thing that could bring down everything I had worked for. "Who did this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Jake hesitated before answering. "We believe it's someone close, maybe even someone in the company. We're still tracing the source, but it's bad." I took a deep breath, trying to think clearly. The timing of this couldn't be worse. My mother still didn't know the full extent of my success. And now I was on the brink of losing everything in a single day. My mind flashed back to the last time I had trusted someone too much. Too many people close to me had betrayed me before. Was this another setup? But then something clicked. The hacker could be after more than just money. They could be trying to expose me. And if that was the case, I needed to act fast. I knew what had to be done. Get me everything, I ordered. All the information. We'll take it to the next level. Whoever did this is about to regret it. Jake nodded and quickly started making calls. But even as he worked, something in the pit of my stomach told me this wasn't just an ordinary attack. There was a bigger picture here, and I was only starting to see the first piece of it. I stood there, staring out the window, my thoughts swirling, one problem after another, just when I thought I had the upper hand. And yet, in the midst of all this chaos, I couldn't help but smile, because I knew one thing for sure. I was going to turn this around, just like I always did. As I turned back to the team, a text notification popped up on my phone. The sender, my mother. It read, "You think this is over? Think again." My heart skipped a beat. The game was far from over. I stared at the text for a long moment, my fingers hovering over the screen. "You think this is over? Think again." The words sent a shiver down my spine. My mother. She had always been unpredictable, but this felt different. She wasn't just angry. She was threatening me in a way that hinted at something far worse than I had anticipated. I quickly opened the message to reply, but before I could type anything, my phone rang again. It was Jake. His voice sounded strained. "We found it. The hacker? It's your mother. She's been pulling strings from the start." I froze, the air thick with disbelief. My mother, the woman who had thrown me out just days ago, had orchestrated the entire thing. She'd been behind the sabotage, pulling every thread, setting traps for me to fall into. "How is that possible?" I asked, struggling to grasp what he was telling me. She's the one who was in debt. How could she possibly have the resources for something like this? We're not sure how she pulled it off, but we traced the IP back to her house. She's been using a proxy to cover her tracks. The information she accessed. It's enough to ruin everything you've worked for, and she's holding it over you. My heart raced. I had underestimated her in the worst way. She wasn't just bitter, she was dangerous. And now she held the power to destroy me. With a single move, I slammed my fist on the desk, the frustration boiling over. But then, something inside me snapped. I couldn't just let her win. I had come too far. I had sacrificed too much. And now it was time to take control, once and for all. Without thinking, I stood up and grabbed my jacket. "We're going to end this today," I said, determination flooding through me. "I'll handle this personally." I drove straight to her house, the deed still tucked away in my pocket. As I approached the door, I could feel the weight of the situation closing in on me. It was all or nothing. I couldn't let her use me as her pawn any longer. This time, I wasn't the one who would be humiliated. I rang the doorbell, and when she answered, her face twisted into a smug expression. "Back for more?" she asked, voice dripping with contempt. I didn't respond. Instead, I pulled out the deed and handed it to her. Watching her confusion slowly turn to panic. "This is over, Mom. You've tried to take everything from me, but I'm not the person you once knew. I've already won." Her eyes widened, the realization dawning on her as she stared at the deed. Her empire, the one she had built on lies, betrayal, and debt, was crumbling. She had never seen me as a threat. But now she was staring at the consequences of underestimating me. You don't have the right," she sputtered, her voice trembling for the first time. I smiled coldly. knowing it was over. I have more than the right, Mom. I have the power to take everything you tried to destroy and turn it into something bigger than you ever imagined. As I walked out of the door for the last time, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about taking back my life, my hard work, and my future. No one could ever take that from me again. And as I drove away, I thought about the future, the one I had built on my own terms, the one where I was no longer the underdog, no longer the person they had written off. It was my time now, and that's when I realized the real victory wasn't in the money, the business, or even the deed. It was in knowing that no matter how hard they tried to break me, I had risen stronger, and I would never be anyone's joke again.